Crop circles, patterns in fields which can appear overnight and without warning.
There's clearly intelligence behind crop circles. That's not the question. The question is, whose intelligence is it?
What are they, why are they there, and what could they possibly signify? And do they come from other worlds?
There are, without a doubt, lots of UFO sightings that take place.
Despite the admissions of hoaxers that the formulations are man-made, many still believe that they are signals from extraterrestrials.
To us, it looks like a field, but underneath, there's an interdimensional gate.
So are they caused by the weather, by UFOs, or by humans? Either way, they are unexplained. Crop circles. They appear abruptly in rural areas with no explanation behind them.
Crop circles are designs in grains, often wheat or barley, that appear in fields mysteriously. They range in complexity from very simple, small circles to really complex, amazing geometric patterns.
It's like almost woven like stitching or a cloth, or you'll have maybe one or two little strands just sitting there, and then there'll be a spiral around them.
Regardless of the specific design or pattern, which emerge over time, there's a handful of characteristics common to most crop circles. One is that most of them are circles, or involve circles. There are more complex ones. There's straight lines, there's triangles, but the vast majority of them are in fact circles.
Just from a simple artistic look and feel, it's wonderful to see these designs. So on that level alone, it provides a wonderful spiritual enhancement of amazement.
These spectacular designs in fields of crops are artistic, dramatic, and often geometrically precise. But are they the work of humans, or are they the marks of visitors from other planets?
People have always tried to find physical evidence that flying saucers and UFOs have been here. And naturally, when people see these amazing formations in the crops, people will associate those with something supernatural and something that came from the sky. They look like the classic George Adamski flying saucer from the 1950s. You can imagine one of these things coming down in a wheat field and creating one of these crop circles.
Crop circles are surrounded by confusion, just like the alien spaceships of the mid-20th century.
It's quite interesting, really, to kind of hark back to the original time when the word flying saucer entered the language, because this was back in 1947, when Kenneth Arnold saw these mysterious craft flying at amazing speeds, doing amazing maneuvers. And when he reported this to the press, he said that the motion was like a saucer skipping across a lake. But he wasn't talking about the shape of the craft, he was talking about the motion. And yet that phrase flying saucer, the media loved it. And then afterwards, people actually reported seeing circular craft, whereas the craft that Kenneth Arnold had seen were actually more like boomerangs. But that became forgotten, and now everybody sees flying saucers.
Some historians claim that the phenomena have been appearing for centuries. But have they?
It's a tough question to answer, how long have crop circles been with us, because it really depends on how you look at it. There's famously a woodcut from the year 1678.
The legend is that a farmer was arguing with one of his helpers who wanted more money to harvest the field, and there was a big fight, and the farmer said, "I'd rather pay the devil himself to mow my field than to pay you to do it." Sure enough, the next morning, the oats were cut, and it was the devil himself. If you look at the woodcut, the image depicts the devil, Satan himself, with a scythe cutting the oats.
So when did they first appear? As far as we know, the first known circles of the modern age were seen in Australia, circular formations in swamp reeds.
A farmer saw a UFO shooting up into the sky.
His name was George Pedley.
He claimed to have heard what he thought was a hissing sound. In the aftermath of that, he went over to the area where he believed he heard the sound come from and found this perfectly circular formation, about 9 meters or 30 feet in diameter. It's quite large when you really think about this, a very significant size. And that became known as the Tully Saucer Circle, and actually further investigation by Pedley and other people found that there were actually a series of these. There were a number of circular formations, mostly smaller than the original one. The RAAF, the Royal Australian Air Force, actually did investigate this. They didn't come up with any explanation as to what would have caused this, but you get the idea that they were sort of nonchalant in their approach to this, saying, well, this kind of thing has happened before during the wet season.
But what can explain the Australian circles?
There have been a variety of explanations that have been offered to explain the Tully saucer nest, none of which really persuaded too many people. Then you've got theories like whirlwinds or vortices of some sort, some kind of natural, maybe wind formation. Also, really, that's a bit of a stretch, it seems to me, to more mechanistic explanations, as in someone's technology, whether flying saucers, which that's an easy one to see why, since you have the witness having seen one. We don't really have a simple explanation, a conventional explanation, I should say, that everyone can agree with.
The Tully saucer nest aside, these extraordinary happenings only really came to public attention in the second half of the 20th century.
Crop circles really genuinely began in the 1970s. There's others elsewhere in Europe, but for the most part, it's as British as tea.
Crop circles are a very important part of British culture, and especially this area. I mean, Wiltshire is like crop circle country.
By the mid and late 1980s, they started to become really complex. And that's when this whole phenomenon really became very, very interesting to follow. You could argue for kind of a vortex theory, sort of a naturalistic Earth phenomenon where these things would somehow be created, and some people were very drawn to that. The problem with that theory became very evident once you start seeing like 4 circles in a perfect pattern, and then with lines connecting them.
Then things really started to take off.
Suddenly there was a rectangular crop circle. It's not a crop circle, but you know, it was like the face of Mars, and then suddenly there was another one in the same field that looked like a message sent out in space, and you got very intricate ones with amazing kind of geometry behind it.
And also becoming enormous in size, and then you start getting even very more sophisticated mathematical expressions of these. So obviously the vortex explanation really kind of fell apart at that point.
The crop circles largely appeared close to sites with spiritual connections.
The large number of them take place in the region around Wiltshire, where you've got Stonehenge, where you've got a lot of other very interesting ancient evidences of early Celtic and pre-Celtic culture. So the question is that important? And then there's a theory of ley lines, and whether or not that's really a legitimate connection is something that no one's really been able to figure this out.
But how can these extraordinary designs appear, seemingly out of nowhere? Are they caused by extraterrestrial beings and miraculous occurrences? Or are they human hoaxes?
It just seemed to appear instantly out of nowhere in broad daylight.
Is this really happening?
Crop circles in the southwest of the United Kingdom have become a part of spiritual folklore, as well as a manifestation, many believe, of the intervention of alien beings. For Monique Klinkenberg, the circles have become almost an obsession.
I used to do reconnaissance flights in the early morning to find if there are any new ones. My daughter was with me, and she loves to fly. And she said, "Mommy, can I fly for you?" I said, "Of course, here's the camera," and blah, blah, blah. So she went in, and she came back, and she said, "There were 2 on each side of the road." I said, "Huh?" And we looked at the picture, and it was like quite amazing on floor level, you know, all the circles and lines. But what happened in the end, that if you put those two circles on top of each other, all the lines and all the dots, they make together a face. Can you imagine how do you do that? One here, one there, creating a face, which some people say it is the face of Jesus. And it also looked like the Shroud of Turin. It was just a stunning event. One of those things I will never ever forget.
Many others had discovered circles in fields in the past, but in 1991, 2 Englishmen rocked the worlds of ufologists and paranormal experts alike. Their names were Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley.
Bauer and Chorley, more commonly known as Doug and Dave, are 2 self-confessed hoaxers who claim that they were responsible for pretty much all of the early crop circles reported in Wiltshire for the first few years, before it really caught on, and then lots of other people started making them.
It just so happens that circles are the easiest patterns for hoaxers to make. It's much more difficult to make lines and triangles than it is to make actual circles.
And they produced these mysterious circles that kind of got people talking.
Every week they went out, before they went home, they created flying saucer landing sites in the swirl patterns in the crops. Nothing elaborate, just simple circles. And they did this for a number of years and no one noticed. And they were about to give up, and suddenly they saw a story in the local newspaper as someone had finally spotted these mysterious swirls in the crops and took a photograph of them, and it got into the local newspaper. That came to the attention of ufologists, and then the rest is history.
If crop circles are merely hoaxes, creations of humans, how are they made?
They got the idea from the original reports from Australia and thought, wouldn't it be fun to have a go at that? So they went out into fields at night with planks and string.
The only explanation that we know for a fact is true is that humans make crop circles. Whether or not aliens also make crop circles, whether or not unknown energies also do them, the only known, proven creator of crop circles is humans. It's certainly true that the more complex crop circles can be difficult to do, because of course you're in a field, there's lots of complicated ones, but making a basic simple crop circle, even a couple patterns, is not that hard to do. In fact, I've done it. I've made several crop circles, and it's fun, it's a bit mischievous, it's cool when you see your work, because you can photograph it, and if you want to, you can sort of do your work and then wait a couple days and see if the locals find it. And if so, you can watch the news and say, oh, I did that, because who wouldn't want to do that? Because people are pranksters.
But this simple answer is surely debunked by the Julia set, an extraordinary and huge field-based creation.
The Julia set crop circle is an amazing event, and of course it made international history.
In my view, it's one of the most astonishing and actually really inexplicable crop circle formations of all. I've never heard of a conventional explanation for this one. In the first place, it's immensely large. So it's roughly 3 football fields in length. I think something like over 900 feet long. It's comprised of 149 distinct circles that are in an incredibly complex, precisely laid down formation. And it's absolutely stunningly beautiful. What's also amazing about it is how it appears to have come into being.
But what is really extraordinary about the Julia set was the speed at which it appeared.
So what happened was a pilot flew over, then on the way back, roughly sometime later, there's that crop circle. And that was the amazing thing about that crop circle. It just seemed to appear instantly out of nowhere in broad daylight.
So how could it have been created?
That's a really legit question. You've got something that's of that immensity and that precision in the middle of the day. There's no one who's ever claimed this one. It's like you've got a secret team of Leonardo da Vinci's going out into the field there, covertly, like spies, to create this incredible, massive structure, and without being seen in the middle of day. I don't know how you explain that.
And in the case of the Mandelbrot set, an even more complex formulation was created.
It was one of these absolutely astonishing circle formations that were just so magnificent. And the people who were looking at crop circles said, well, now explain this.
But Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley soon claimed responsibility for both.
These two retired guys said, oh no, we did them all. We started the whole thing. And then they proceeded to give a demonstration. So I think when you're looking at disinformation, you really have to look at those two, and you have to look at all of the media support as well to throw cold water on these cases.
One of the more bizarre theories is that humans are being used to create the circles and that they are doing so subconsciously.
This gets into human consciousness, and then somebody stomps it around and makes a crop circle. It's not the physicality of how they're made. In some respects, that's very interesting. There are balls of light seen. There's all these kinds of things being seen, which would appear to make a formation. There's a video, a very famous video of an orb flying around, appearing to make a crop circle, but that's been proved to be a fake. So there's an awful lot of skullduggery involved, and there's an awful lot of military intelligence involved from different countries, and there's an awful lot of attention on something which is just a simple bunch of hoaxers having a laugh.
But could the emergence of crop circles have any connection with pagan sites and some of the best-known prehistoric monuments on the planet? While evidence that crop circles are man-made is compelling, their sheer size and the speed with which they have appeared lead some to believe that they have to be extraterrestrial in origin. One theory is that the preponderance of circles in the Wiltshire area of the UK is driven by the region's ancient pagan sites, making it a center of paranormal activity.
Some of these crop circles have been made specifically because there are existing earth energies in a given area. There are ley lines going all over these places. There are standing stones which have, these megaliths have got electrical energetic properties. The scientists have looked at the energy fields, the electric static energy fields in some of these stones are amazing. Some of these stones re-radiate. They are electrical transmission devices.
And some believe many prehistoric mounds are capable of interacting with the circles.
Silbury Hill is a classic example. It's a multi-layered insulation and conductive layered technical energy field device. This is a mini Silbury Hill. This is something full of resin and conductive materials, and this will produce an energy field. So these devices are electrical field devices. They're interdimensional field devices.
Another theory is that crop circles were messages sent by extraterrestrials. But why have they only started appearing over the last few decades?
Human beings now have absolutely, utterly transformed our civilization and indeed the whole face of this planet. We have to keep in mind that for thousands and thousands of years, our society was essentially the same thing. It was horses pulling wooden carts. You could argue we were not as interesting for all that period of time. But suddenly in the last century, we really take off with science and industry. That's a fact. And so if there's any other observing intelligence that can see that, they would know right now is the time to be watching this civilization. It wouldn't surprise me in the least that you would have a greater level of interactivity from an observing intelligence. And I think personally that is exactly what we are seeing in the context of the rest of what we call the UFO phenomenon. And I wouldn't rule it out in the crop circle phenomenon either.
So is the scientific consensus on crop circles that they are constructed by human beings as hoaxes? Or are they the creations of alien beings?
There are still people out there making these patterns, and I think with some justification, seeing it as kind of public art.
The only danger that I see are the people that have, in some cases, spent decades of their lives researching this and genuinely believe that there's some hidden mystery that we're not getting.
I think we're all best served by dialing down the fanaticism, dialing down the certainty, and being willing to listen to opposing or alternate points of view. We can still learn from those that we disagree with on this matter.
All the other questions are really sort of irrelevant. We're just looking at something beautiful and amazing, and it's just wonderful to be able to do it out in the countryside, in the open air.
There could be a meaning if it's extraterrestrial, showing we are there. Or could be comfort for people who lost their loved ones. Maybe it's just simply part of nature. I don't know, but I just love it.